So I was thinking about other stuff, other things related to VR, like what other things it could be used for.
Yeah, besides gaming.
Yeah, besides gaming.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a whole bunch of different applications.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, because although gaming's like the main thing, I mean,
it certainly is now.
It's the beginner thing. It's this thing that most of the people who are interested in VR really at the moment, aside from like professional applications, are gamers. And that's what's sort of driving the kind of like visual side of it forward and the technology behind like the display and stuff like that. But yes.
I think there are. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are quite a lot of avenues for it to kind of.
So one of the things that was out quite early in VR was like the virtual cinema.
Yeah. So that makes it feel a bit like you're sat in a giant cinema, right?
Yeah, it just puts you in a giant.
So you're still watching essentially like a flat movie, but like on a massive screen that's in front of you somewhere.
In a cinema without any other like kids screaming. Yeah. People eating noisily.
Yeah.
Just generally being a complete headache.
Yeah.
You just sit there in lovely peace and silence and watch a movie which on the current dev kits looks pixelated as shit.
Okay, so that's not good.
But
looking further forward, that's obviously
once
something.
the screen resolution is sorted out a bit more, and it is going to be way better on the actual consumer versions. Then I mean that's going to be. I'm going to try it. I mean, I'm pretty excited, and you can do 3D movies in it and stuff.
Cool. Without having to wear. Well, okay, you're wearing a massive headset.
Yes, not an additional pair of virtual glasses. Yeah. So I feel like that, watching a movie at home, if you're watching a movie on your own, you might in the future that might be kind of like a preferable option to watching on your TV.
And it's super immersive. I mean, you're watching a fat thing, but like you imagine like sat on your sofa and you stick on like a headset and start watching like a really especially like a really atmospheric movie like Mulholland Drive or something.
But I was thinking though things like if you're eating or drinking and you can't see any of that around you. You have to wear like one of those like beer hats.
You'd have to kind of like lift it up and then it lets in the light and it's a bit like, what the fuck's going on?
Reality.
Yeah, that's true. Or a beer hat. Yes, a beer hat.
A beer hat would be good. Or if you can have like if it in the future is like really good VR and you just have like a camera that like builds like a 3D representation of everything you are. Yeah. Like Project Tango, like that Google thing, the phone that does that. Film a room and it builds a 3D model of that room. If you could do that really quick in real time. And you've just got like a massive thing of popcorn or whatever. It just puts that in, so you like sit down and feel like your body is like is there.
I reckon that's
the feature of VR is like that. You just everything is
it just renders the room. Like
it could render the room, or it could render just you and then put you anywhere else.
Yeah. That's cool. And I mean that's obviously got applications way beyond just like sitting in a movie cinema eating popcorn.
Yeah, I just kind of
but that's awesome. So with that, I don't know, that's something built onto the headset that kind of like that's the Project Tango kind of element of it that maps you and then renders your like body and the popcorn and stuff built into the headset, or is it like a little thing like separate?
I think the Project Tango thing's just a phone.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would be built into the whatever device senses where the headset is.
Yeah, sure.
Like the camera that comes with the Oculus.
Yeah.
So you could do also things like live shows, right?
Live shows, yeah.
And actually, if you want to go to music venues, that might even be better.
Yeah.
Because you could have like a virtual reality camera, which is just like a proper 360 degree, camera.
Well, that's actually something that another application of it that once the technology for like these 360 cameras improves and you can film really really good like VR quality video that has the proper frame rates and all the kind of all the latency issues that are sorted out.
Yes.
Video is going to be insane.
Yeah,
stuff like imagine like a base jumping video or something.
Yeah. Oh god.
I don't think I can watch one of those. Like an EVA from the space station.
Oh my god.
Like a camera, like a 360 camera strapped to the top of an astronaut's helmet while they're doing a spacewalk. Can you imagine that? And you're just watching it in full VR, just like the Earth is like hanging above you.
In one of the VR demos that I used, there was a little bit where you saw the Earth like that. And it was fucking awesome.
And of course, yeah.
But like, imagine the real thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite hard to get that right though. Like the real reality.
Yeah, the actual.
But I don't see. There's no reason why it would be impossible.
And if these things catch on, which they are going to, like VR headsets and VR generally, then it's going to drive a need or a desire, a customer desire for having good quality VR video.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm just trying to get over that, like thinking of being on the ISS.
Yeah. Or just even mental stuff. Like you can imagine like just like one of these 360 cameras that's like somehow really protected or something. Just chuck it out of a plane, or like I don't know, just something crazy. Well, like watching it.
Well, like we're climbing that high antenna, with no cord. Like that's sketchy enough. Just watching that video on a 2D monitor, because it's got a GoPro and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine how fucking terrifying that's going to be? Do like that in VR.
I can't really, because it's terrifying watching it on like a crappy little YouTube video.
Yeah,
it's going to be insane. So basically anything that you have like a GoPro footage for, if they sort out the technology of the filming element, it's going to be sweet in VR.
So you can kind of take it anywhere, I suppose. So you can go to like these extreme things, or if you want to go like Street View, like Google Street View, like they could redo that in VR presumably. Yeah, and then you could just walk around the world.
That's mad.
And you can go visit hotels you want to go to, like walk around the hotel, be like, this one's got cockroaches. They're like everywhere.
or I guess like architects and stuff who are designing buildings. I mean, this isn't a filming element, but like more of like a digitally rendered sort of element of it.
I think that's one of the first applications that will probably go professional. Yeah, is that like when you design a house, the renders you see of it are kind of like, oh yeah, looks good, or what, you can't really tell what it feels like to be in there. With VR, you could build a 3D model of it and walk through your like unbuilt house basically, and be like, this isn't the right place. Can we move this table? Yeah.
Or like, fuck, I don't need to build it. I've got this now. Okay, I'll just live in a shitty flat and then just wear my Oculus headset all the time.
Well, when we'll keep going. I think when we talk more in the future, a little bit later, about the potential bad stuff that could entail. Yeah, maybe. The other thing, I was having a thought about was maybe as like a treatment. So if you're like stuck in hospital or something, and you've got like you're having chemotherapy,
and it's just really
or
shit,
you're just in hospital, you're just bored, like because hospitals are horrible places.
They're horrible. Yeah.
You could
do their best, but they are horrible.
Yeah. You could just stick on a VR headset and like, go to wherever, tropical island, just chill out. You would, your head
go scuba diving.
Like
go to the middle of Antarctica if you want to. I don't know, anything.
I think it would really help old people.
Yeah. Well, generally people who are sort of housebound a bit, or like just can't really get around, like maybe not too mobile.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, disabled people. Surely, like, I mean, people who have like
just because all of those kind of conditions, if you're not very mobile, they're psychologically damaging, right? Just to have spend long periods of time like where you can't really get out, and if nothing else, surely this kind of thing is going to help psychologically, like with mental health. Yeah, you'd imagine just like keeping people a little bit more sane, a bit more like just
a bit more variety in their lives.
Yeah, I've been to these places, I've experienced things, like even though I'm still in my house.
Yeah.
And on that note, you can imagine it being used in situations where like you have to be enclosed in a small space for a really, really long period of time, like traveling to Mars. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. So like long duration space flights. Yes. One of the biggest like unknown factors, apart from all the technological stuff, obviously, is like the psychological effect on a human crew. So like it takes like 6 months or something.
Yeah, and you can't replicate that properly.
No, you really can't. But if you can be sure that by providing like a virtual escape from the like enclosed area of like a tiny little phone booth spacecraft thing, that you'll sort them out, then
I just remembered when we went on that parabolic flight.
Yeah. Yes.
Some guy bought an Oculus Rift on it.
You're right. Yeah, they did.
I forgot about that.
I'd forgotten about that. That ties in perfectly to this.
So he said it went absolutely batshit crazy when you went into 0G.
Yeah, but that was the point of them taking it on the flight. So
yeah. Oh, I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm just saying like, obviously it needs to be adapted heavily, but there's there's some interesting probably technological hurdles to try and operate that thing in 0G.
Yeah, that was the thing. So we went on a parabolic flight, which we mentioned in a previous video, and we will do like a full video about it at some point.
We will.
It was cool.
That's understating it.
It was basically like it was loads of science going on this flight, and we were involved in some stuff on that.
Yeah, it was just a science.
But one of the groups on it were either from Oculus or had like an Oculus.
No, it wasn't from Oculus. It was from a university, I think.
Sure, but NASA, I think it was NASA had actually given them money to do this because the guy was chatting to me. He said NASA are interested in the applications of VR in space. So this is something that is talked about by space agencies. But of course, like the gyroscopes and stuff in an Oculus go mental in 0G, so that's a hurdle to get over.
So I was talking to a guy from Goddard, at one of the meetings we went to, and this was a little while back, and he was like into drones, like super into drones, and we were talking about drones and stuff, and he showed me loads of videos. It was awesome. And I basically said, have you heard of, like, he was talking about controlling drones, and he had never, this was before not many people, the Oculus Rift wasn't as big a thing as it was, and he had never heard of it, and he was like, what the hell's that? And I showed it to him, and he was like, that's so cool. So they might well do something with that. That was a while ago now. But I just remember, like, his face was like, okay, this is a big thing. Yeah. I need to get straight into this. I'm going to buy one immediately.
Instantly sold on it.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah. What have I been missing?
Yeah, so you could use it to control drones and those sorts of things. But yeah, space flight and long haul, just long haul transport, just straight up transport, just standard.
If you're on a plane for like 6, 7, 8, 10 hours or whatever, then like why sit and watch crappy movies on like a tiny little screen when you could like
pretend you're in your lounge?
Yeah, do a spacewalk or like play a game where you're like flying an X-wing or like I don't know anything.
Yes,
literally anything.
Yeah. It's limited by people's imaginations and budgets to build these virtual things.
And once planes are like hooked up with decent internet connections as well, you could play like massive like multiplayer online games. You can participate in like virtual like worlds, like virtual social kind of worlds and all that kind of stuff.
I guess
it's like being sat on a plane is just like what your body's doing.
Yeah,
forget about that.
Well, if you had a plane hooked up, and this would apply, this is another use of it in non-traveling scenarios. You could do like social interactions, right? So you could sit down with someone's virtual like body, virtual presence, and have meetings like that. If you're on a plane, say there's like a satellite internet that the plane can like link up to. Yeah, you could just you could be at work basically while you're on the plane. That's kind of depressing, I thought actually.
But that's in some situations that's arguably better than being sat on a plane for 10 hours.
That's true. So. And you can, talk to friends and family, wherever you are in the world. Not just like Skype, but you can sort of feel like you're sitting with them.
So, do you think that this is going to get even more kind of future-y and stuff? But do you think there is going to be like obviously like the internet, like a sort of a kind of virtual world sort of aspect to that, in the sense that there will be kind of a virtual world that's connected by the internet that you kind of interact with other people's avatars and stuff in and can I actually inhabit?
Yeah.
more so. I mean, obviously that already exists. So the internet has existed for a while. But like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you? Yeah, that's a great question. Something like Second Life. Okay, those sort of
that kind of thing, but just way better,
bigger. Well,
bigger and
like
immersive.
Can you imagine like a platform like Facebook where it's kind of like there's some Facebook own Oculus, so maybe they'll do something with it. That you have.
I'm not sure how something like Facebook would work really.
Well, Facebook probably is kind of a static thing. I mean, you might be able to like walk around people's like virtual experiences and stuff, and like I don't know exactly. Or you could do virtual like. So there's got to be like social virtual games, or virtual of worlds where, maybe it depends how far in the future you're talking, but like initially.
Certainly like what you were just saying about having meetings, like work-related stuff. Yeah. Having meetings, if everyone's on the other side of the world, instead of having some crappy like Skype conference or like an email thread, if you could literally all just get in a room together, like a virtual room, but you get in a room, have a meeting, all sat there as avatars.
There's got to be some giant social, not just meetings and stuff though, like going out, like when you go out to town and sort of talk to people. Virtual reality is kind of like a safe way to do that. Like just a giant like meeting point, eventually potentially forming like a whole virtual world in which you don't actually do anything but live in it. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're nearly there, I think. I mean that could be that's obviously in the far future, but like in the near future, I definitely think there's going to be sort of social platforms. Yeah, of course they were going to.
Yeah, of course, absolutely, definitely. Yeah,
be like Tinder and stuff like that. Like you just go for like dates with people and it's like I'm not sick of this. Yeah, so you just like log off.
So I don't even need to. Bye. Next person. But That's interesting though, because you could arguably, in like a world like that, your avatar would not necessarily be like a physical representation of you. Could be all kinds of mental stuff.
Yeah. Oh well, that's
like
the other thing.
Giant,
Could you
moth thing or something?
Your avatar is Mothra in a dating app. Just sits there,
kind of twitching,
just bumping into a lamp in the corner. I was thinking, because you just said about VR like avatars, but surely you could do like real world avatars as well, like Avatar.
Oh right, yes, yeah. Look, so like kind of like a controlling like a robotic like thing. That's
with
cool.
like some sort of weird like dome camera thing on its head.
Yeah,
and you're like,
and actually, yeah. In the more near future, that could be potentially really useful for stuff like rescuing people from disaster zones or like flaming buildings.
Yeah.
Or
well, you think about things like surgery.
Yeah.
Like any like work. I mean, those guys use kind of VR, and those guys and girls use VR to do kind of basic things. Sure. Like they use those big like giant like surgical things where you sort of put your hands in and like control tools,
and it's controlling like this really tiny tiny little thing.
So better versions of that essentially. You could do operations from miles away on pay. You know, you could get expertise from the US, you know, to some, you know, country that doesn't have it and do operations, you know, in these places that don't have access to these medical facilities. Although you've got to get like a giant machine over there. But that's not as difficult as getting like highly trained surgeons necessarily to like relocate there. You know, you could potentially or indeed, I mean, there might be some applications for that.
Yeah, certainly. I wonder if there's any kind of just more like sort of entertainment or fun applications of having like a robotic avatar. Like, could you do extreme sports, for example?
That's a cool idea.
That you maybe would be a bit scared of doing.
But there'll be these like.
So it doesn't matter if you die or something because it's a robot.
Well, this is like the moving to that future where all the people are just inside. And
the brain in the jar scenario.
Yeah, well, these robots are just running around. Yeah. Like outside is just chaos, just people just fucking around, just like jumping off buildings, smashing up stuff, and the real world just sort of like burns to the ground, and everyone's just loving it.
Everyone's just a brain in a jar. Like, this is fucking brilliant.
Basically, everyone just ends up playing Fallout for the rest of their lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool.
Yeah. That sort of leads us into this question of like, if you extrapolate this virtual reality thing, does it turn into a bit of a nightmare in the sense that everyone's going to be stuck in virtual reality? Is that a nightmare? Maybe it's not.
I'm not sure of either of those two. One, I don't think there's ever going to be a substitute for like being you. Maybe there is. It depends if you go to like it depends how far you're going down the line, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to like
brain in a jar scenario where it's literally like it's
wires in,
everything is the same, like all the inputs to the brain are exactly the same as they are now. Then it would be imperceptibly different. There would be no difference. But
there's an in between part, isn't there?
Yeah.
And people aren't going to get when these VR headsets come out 10 years later, people aren't going to be just like sick of going like for walks on mountains because they can do it virtually.
Yeah.
Because you can't feel the breeze on your face or smell the air, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
You can't
it's still just visual and audio.
And people aren't going to stop jumping out of planes and stuff, you know, for like parachuting and like bungee jumping and like all these other things. People are still going to want to do those things.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm not particularly. It might encourage some people to stay in more, I guess. Like, but then, is that true? I mean, like, like a TV, already, people just sit in front of the TV all the time anyway, don't they? So
people play games. Yeah, people get into games, like especially the MMOs and stuff, spending days, weeks, just without leaving playing it. Yeah. So you can imagine those kind of people are probably going to take it to even more extreme.
Yeah, I feel like it would be the same kind of like proportion of people going mental on it.
But until you get to a point of like crazy far future where you can literally plug stuff into your brain like in the Matrix and like simulate everything perfectly. Yeah. Then you wouldn't find people literally just disappearing into it for the rest of their lives. I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's just not as good as reality. It's not as real as reality.
Yeah. It's not the same. You can't get everything from it.
Yeah.
You can't eat in it, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think that there is this is like a technological step change. Like when you use this thing, it's not like any other piece of technology I've used. It's not really like any other piece of technology I've ever kind of any other technology demo that I've ever kind of come across, in the sense that
most of how big of a change it is.
Yeah. Because most of the things I remember from like the past, it's like the first time using like a like an iPhone touchscreen. I was like, oh, this is good.
That was pretty like a big deal, but
yeah,
I can imagine that not being quite as.
I remember getting
mental
like
as
like some the odd game where I've been like, Jesus, like this looks real. Obviously it doesn't now.
Yeah.
And trying out like I remember when we upgraded like from an SD TV to an HD TV, and I was like, what the hell have I been doing? And getting a computer for the first time, but nothing that's like that really was like a physical experience.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. This feels like a physical experience. Like your body reacts to it as if it's a physical thing, and in that sense, it just has more of an effect on your body, more of an effect on your mind. Like you get kind of like latent kind of kind of feelings from it later on.
Yeah.
When I go back and look at some of those pictures of those VR demos that I've seen, it
triggers a response
slightly. Not like a really strong one, but it does kind of. There's something about it. They feel like places I've been rather than places I've kind of.
Just like a game you played or like a video you watched or something.
Yeah, they feel like environments that I've been in, and I think like surely someone's going to get like traumatized by like a horror environment or something.
Yeah, sure. Especially as they get more and more real.
That ocean where there's just nothing but some dark water, and I was like, oh my god, I need to get this thing off me. I feel like because it's such a big difference.
Yeah,
it's such a change in technology that there's going to have to be something is going to change slightly in the way that we kind of interact with technology over as these things become more popular.
Yeah.
I can't see it being just like a new TV, because it isn't really just a new TV.
No, it is a step change.
Yeah, possibly
of the like that we obviously we've seen like giant advances in technology in the last 20-30 years, but they possibly haven't been a step like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's as important as something like the internet.
No, certainly not.
But in terms of
but in terms of the way that we interact with the internet and technology and just generally technology and gaming.
Yeah. So when you think back to if you think back to say the year 2000.
Yeah.
Or, and then the decade before that, the 90s.
Yeah.
What changed from like 2000 to 2010 seemed a lot more than 90 to 2000, okay?
Yeah.
And that's because a lot of the technology that was being developed there, even though obviously it's like exponentially increasing, but then for in the 5 years that have happened from 2010 to now, feels like there's not been so much of a change to me.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And that's not because the technology slowed down. It's just because the step change in consumer electronics and the internet happened in 2010. And those things are just a lot more obvious to us. Like other technology, like sequencing technologies and things that are like exploding, you just don't see as like a person normally, or like types of like AI software and stuff that's coming about this,
but she's going mental.
But if you look back at the end of maybe 2020 or 2025, you might be like, oh, hold on a minute, there's a lot has changed, because something has entered our lives that enables us to go other places, and that feels like a real like physical difference in the way we interact with technology. So
and because I predict, I'm sure we both predict, that it's going to become so pervasive. Like looking back to this year, next year, these few years when it's being introduced, even though it's in its rudimentary early stages, it's going to be looked back on as like, Jesus, that was a big step.
Yeah.
And now we have this world where like virtual reality, real true virtual reality exists.
Yes.
Yeah. In all of its applications.
Yeah.
That's going to be a cool world.
So is that a good thing?
Yeah. I mean, straight up.
Yeah.
Definitely yes. I mean, so why wouldn't it be a good thing?
Is it an over-reliance on technology? Is it like the road to, if you get a monstrous solar flare and it just like EMPs the whole of the like electronic system in the world, everyone comes out of that and they're like, I can't do anything. Like people just, we already rely on technology for everything. Like my internet went down.
So we're arguably already screwed if that happens anyway.
Possibly. I mean, my internet went down like a few days ago. It went down for about 2 hours.
And it's like, what the hell am I going to do?
I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, it's like, this is it.
I'm
literally going to die. I'm on my way out.
Yeah. Like, where's my like news feeds? And like, I'm trying to look on the BBC News site to get like updates on this.
So, so imagine if you are relying directly on VR for whatever, and suddenly you have no access to that anymore, and you're in like the stark reality of like cold, sort of grim Scotland or wherever it is that you happen to live,
which is where we happen to be at the moment.
Yeah.
You're not just slagging off Scotland.
No. I quite like Scotland. It just happens to be kind of cold and dark right now.
It is pretty. I agree.
Yeah. So yes, you're right. There is yes, but without VR, arguably we still have an over-reliance on technology. So I don't know if the introduction of VR really
it's
makes
just a
that
step
a whole bunch
further
worse.
in that direction.
Yeah, true. But we are ultimately just going to go further and further in that direction anyway. We just need to make sure we can deal with that when and if it happens.
Yeah. I mean, there's some prediction, right, that society like gets better over time, and then at some point becomes over reliant on technology and becomes problematic. I don't know where that society degrades somehow because of an over reliance on technology.
Yeah,
but I can't help but be anything but excited about it.
Yeah, sure. That's exactly my thoughts as well. People who say that society's degraded from an over reliance on technology, they just look at the last like sort of few decades. Like the introduction of the internet is facilitated like huge amounts of global communication, and like suddenly you're seeing all these kind of innovative ideas like massively accelerating kind of the way that these people plans put together. And
I think that I don't remember where I read this idea, but I think the idea was that it's going to get better for a while, like and then there will be a point where like it's brain in the jar kind of thing, and society doesn't really exist anymore.
Sure.
I mean,
and I think if you think that is if I'm saying you personally, but if one thinks that is a bad outcome, brain in a jar scenario, then maybe VR is starting down that road, and that's a bad thing. I don't know. Is it? It might be great.
I'm almost so excited about it. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
And also,
and I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to happen. Like you can't stop it happening. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So you might as well just enjoy it when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, chances are we're not going to be around long enough to see like the bad end of it.
Yeah.
Sure. So, screw it.
Yeah.
That's a terrible way to think of it. But there's nothing you can do, right? Like they're definitely coming out, these things.
Yeah.
And they're definitely I mean, maybe we're wrong and no one's going to buy them and it's going to be a flop.
Yeah. It'd be another 1980s scenario. But I can't see that.
If you talk to anyone who's used these things, and very few of them are not impressed.
Yeah. And just the general buzz about them is pretty good online and stuff. Like people are loving it.
So
yeah.
Do you think it's a bad thing being just a brain in a jar that's got wires coming out of it? Like if all those inputs are the same, okay, and you're having that same experience, like what do I care? It's like the Matrix question, I suppose.
Yeah. Obviously, the Matrix generally is in the movie it's a bad thing. Because they're being enslaved.
That guy who blows up kills everyone.
Spoiler alert. Everyone's seen the Matrix.
Yeah, if you haven't seen, he laser guns a few people.
Yeah,
and then sides with the machines. Yeah, basically because he wants just screw it. I'll just have
a happy life in the Matrix.
Maybe he was right.
Yeah, maybe. But unfortunately, the Matrix in that was just like our world, sort of about 15 years ago.
Yeah,
so screw that. I think if you were a brain in a jar, and you were living through vicariously, not vicariously because it would just feel totally normal like this. Yes. You're living through avatars or whatever.
Or just whatever. Just turn it to a whatever. It doesn't matter. There's inputs and outputs.
Yeah, it's sort of infinite possibilities. Surely.
Yeah, you can.
Surely
live out
it's
your
just ultimately
life.
Better than this. I mean, this is fine.
Yeah, so it's pretty good.
This is all right. But if you're a brain in a jar, you wouldn't. Unless the brain in the jar got destroyed, you wouldn't really worry about dying or anything like that. You could sort of do anything you wanted to, go anywhere you wanted to.
Yeah.
Be
anywhere you wanted to
space
be.
Without a suit.
You'd never have. You could just things that give you pleasure, release chemicals from your brain. Anything from eating to going for a run to whatever.
Yeah.
Because you can literally have those brain pleasure, brain areas stimulated
just directly.
You never fail to get pleasure from those things.
Yeah.
As in if you keep eating Mars bars, the first one, loving it, getting some good serotonin running around your body, you're getting a bit happy. Okay. You just keep eating Mars bars, and it eventually fails to release that stuff because you get sick.
And you get a bit sick of Mars bars. You're like, don't want any more. Don't want a Mars bar.
But this would literally every time never fail to give you like pleasure.
So it would always release that same amount of serotonin or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'd always get the same amount of pleasure from it.
Yeah. So you'd never. It's not like.
Sounds great.
Yeah. But you'd never really know you'd know other brains, I guess. Well, would you? Would you even bother? You could just simulate them because other brains might have like conflicting interests with yours. So you just never.
You never come into contact with like an actual other brain. Maybe you just lose the concept of there being other brains.
Yeah, you might do.
You just sort of live in this kind of like just consciousness, kind of strange like pleasured existence.
I feel like hedonism bot.
It's weird. It's weird. Like there is a part of me, like a subconscious part, that's like that sounds horrible. Like it's almost like nightmarish and kind of like
yeah.
But why? If you really think about it, like you just
the inputs and outputs are exactly the same.
You're having an absolutely great time forever, like the best you could ever feel.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
There's
a kind of like human like knee-jerk reaction of like, oh no, I don't want to be a brain in a jar. Like I don't, I want to be like walking around in the world and feeling the breeze.
Yeah.
And like,
but you'd be doing all that anyway, except for it'd be better.
Yeah. No, let's put me in the jar.
Get me in the jar. Well, there's like a thought experiment, isn't there, about like a tank?
Yeah.
Where like you ask people if they want to get in this tank, and they essentially have what we described, like that perfect life. But
there's a few other like caveats to it. Like you have to like turn for example, that
you're getting into it, but once you get into it, you don't know.
Yeah.
But no one takes that decision, partly because they've got connections to like the real world.
Yeah. Like their family and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly, and loved ones.
Yeah.
So. It's not quite the same though, because we're talking about like everyone co-evolves to that point. If you like.
It's like sort of like the end member point of like human civilization kind
of.
It's
like almost borderline like digitizing just consciousness, just like humans. Totally.
I don't think we'll get to a point where we choose to isolate ourselves from other humans. I don't think that will happen. Maybe it will.
No.
But I think we'll always be interacting with other human
unless
brains.
like an AI is like running everything.
Yeah, well, and it
decides that's the best idea. Yeah, but we'll do an AI episode.
Yeah, we definitely will. But that's another possibility for sure. Of which it's out of our control.
It is.
And the outcome could still be pretty great for us though, if we're just being like constantly just like pleasured, stimulated, like boop, 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 boop. We're like fuck yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean maybe it would. I'm struggling to pick apart like apart from
I don't want to be in a jar because I like walking around and I like the whatever.
But it's
which doesn't really apply, because all of the pleasure you get from that you get times a million. So yeah.
Right. Well, that's a strange thing to note to finish on. I guess that's the end of the day's topic.
Yeah, it sort of is. I think we've done that justice.
We've rinsed that VR. I mean, that's taken a while. That's a fairly long topic.
Yeah.